How to Train a Happy Mind is a production of the nonprofit Skeptic's Path to Enlightenment. Our podcasts and programs are free and ad-free, thanks to the generosity of listeners like you. If you'd like to support us, visit howtotrainahappymind.org. While you're there, you can also join our Train a Happy Mind community for live discussions and meditations. Or grab a copy of my book, How to Train a Happy Mind, featuring a foreword by the Dalai Lama. I'm Scott Snibbe, and this is How to Train a Happy Mind, where we explore how timeless Buddhist ideas can help everyday people live happier lives, deepen their relationships, and build a better world. This year, we're using the framework of Buddhism's 6 perfections to guide most of our episodes. Our last one, with returning guest and activist Kazu Haga, focused on patience, or not returning harm. This week, another favorite of the podcast is back, Susan Piver. She and I talk and riff on her new book, Inexplicable Joy, which explores one of Buddhism's most famous and mysterious texts, the Heart Sutra. This profound text is all about the perfection of wisdom, emptiness, the ultimate interdependent nature of reality. Fully realizing this is said to lead to the inexplicable joy that gives Susan's book its name. Join us to hear her unique take on a text she's been reciting for 30 years and discover her fresh, modern, and sometimes surprising ways of understanding words written nearly 2,000 years ago. So, Susan, it is really a delight to read another one of your books. You have such a unique voice, and there's so many wonderful, even shocking sentences in your book, like when you say the Heart Sutra wants to make out with you.
Yeah, I really I was like, I guess I'll leave that in.
Yeah, what does that mean when you say the text wants to make out with you?
Well, it's something that is best related to intimately, personally, rather than studying the various words, which is also very important, but it's just an intimate experience to practice the Heart Sutra.
I love it. And also, you and I were not monks and nuns. So I think it bears on the practice of people in relationships and marriages and so on. It's a nice metaphor, I think, for a person like me and many of your readers. I don't know if you're prepared for this, but I wonder if you would start out by reading the Heart Sutra, or maybe you have it memorized and you can just recite it. I thought it would be a nice way to begin.
I'm happy to. Thus have I heard. Once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness. Emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhists of the three times, by means of prajnaparamita, fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth. The prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Thus it is, O son of noble family. Thus it is. One should practice the profound prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly and the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Beautiful. And this is something you recite or think to yourself every day in your practice?
Yeah, every day I recite it. Yeah, for probably more than 30 years.
Very nice. I did for a long time. Then I stopped. Then I told my teacher I was having some problems in my life, and he said, "Oh, are you reciting the Heart Sutra every day?"
Why do you think he said that?
Well, he did tell me a reason, which is, what we call accumulating merit, right? When you find obstacles in your life, sometimes, from your Buddhist teacher's perspective, even if you're like a good guy, sometimes things just aren't going well for you, as I think we can all relate. And so the Buddhist perspective is that also this purification and accumulating merit are important. So that's what he said, is accumulating merit, doing things of just pure goodness and benefit for your own mind. So yeah, I restarted reading it every morning, and I definitely see that benefit. It's a different translation. There's all these slightly different translations.
Yeah, many translations.
Can you tell me about the first time you heard and recited the Heart Sutra and how it struck you?
Yeah, I remember very clearly. This was a long time ago, maybe 35 years ago. I was talking to someone who worked at Shambhala Publications, the publishing house, many, many years ago, about business things. I wasn't a writer, but we were talking about distribution and whatever, because I used to work in marketing. So anyway, we had things to talk about. And I said, at one point, I might like to learn how to meditate. We're at a noisy restaurant. And he said, what kind? I didn't know there were different kinds. So honestly, I said, Tibet, like that. It's a cosmic moment.
Wow. That's right. I don't think I've ever heard anybody choose that one right off the bat. So,
especially 35 years ago. It's like, who even knew what that was?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd been reading like many people do. So he said, I know someone who might want to teach you. And then he called me later. He said, no, he doesn't have time. But come to a party at Shambhala Publications. Oh, okay. And I met this person. And it turned out his name was Sam, and he was the publisher and founder of Shambhala Publications. And he said, well, if you want to learn to meditate, I'm going to be away for a month, but when I'm back, call me and I'll teach you if you would like. I'm like, okay. And so I went to his apartment. I'm like, this is weird. I'm going to this dude's apartment. I don't really know him. But anyway, it was obviously totally fine. And we talked a little about practice. And then he said, well, before we sit, and he said, oh, you've never meditated before? Well, we'll sit for an hour. It's like, What? He said, okay, 45 minutes. But before we sit, we'll say this together. And he handed me this piece of paper, and it was what I just recited. It was the Heart Sutra. So he said, you won't be able to pronounce some of the words. That's okay. Just skip over them. So we said the Heart Sutra, and then he taught me to meditate. So I read the Heart Sutra before I even ever learned to meditate. And it was sort of like the gateway. I now realize decades later, that was the seed syllable. That was the striking of the gong. And I still practice it. So that's the first time.
And what feelings did you have when you heard it for the first time, when you read it for the first time?
Confusion. Like, why are we doing this? What does this mean? What's a Gandharva? Why are we saying this? I didn't feel anything like, oh, this is cosmic, or I was like, I don't get it. But okay. And it's really not that different 33 or 5 years on. I still feel like, well, I really didn't get it, but okay, let's do it again. Not being disingenuous here. That's sincerely.
You know, that may be a deep realization. My brother became a Tibetan Buddhist before me, and I watched him for about 4 years and was quite entertained by a lot of the stories he told me. But one of the stories he told me about Buddhism was his teacher said, you know that feeling when you were about to say something and you forgot it? And my brother said, yeah. He said, and the teacher said, that's the feeling you want to have all the time.
So that's awesome. You're about to say something, but you forgot it. That's great.
So like there's something really profound about being confused and shaken up and open, and maybe that's a level of realization and not not an obstacle.
I think it's genuine in any case, and
it's genuine. Yeah.
The way I would say what he said, which is so great, is when you, and I don't know that I feel this way more and more about the Heart Sutra, but you read something of a spiritual nature, and the best feeling to me is, I knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't know I knew it.
Yeah.
There's this moment of, I knew it. I just didn't know I knew it, but apparently I do. Then it erases, but that's cool.
I think when you emailed me about your book, I shared a little bit that I was kind of like, there was kind of peer pressure to become a Buddhist. My brother was sending me emails or calls and things for about 4 years. But then I took him to see the Dalai Lama because I knew he would like it. But then the Dalai Lama was giving refuge vows and so on. And my friends were like, oh, you should do this. You should do this. I'm like, oh, what does this entail? Anyway, I did. And I don't regret it. But then I looked for a teacher in San Francisco. And I went to the Tibetan teacher's first teachings and found them incomprehensible. They were on the 12 links, the first teaching I ever took. But then I went to the prayers. There were prayers every weekend, meditation prayers every weekend with the nuns involved with the community. And we read the Heart Sutra for the first time. And I just broke into tears. I just started bawling and bawling, like, so, with the feeling like you said, like there's something profoundly true and familiar here. And I certainly don't understand it. But I'd like to learn more.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a very powerful experience.
So yeah, it's and I guess we invite everybody, if you haven't, well, all of you have now heard the Heart Sutra. So I'm curious, for those of you now listening, think for a moment about what was your first reaction to hearing it?
Did you chant it in a monotone when you first did it, or it wasn't like I just read it, I assume?
We used to do it a bit like you, actually, which was nice, by the way. I enjoyed the way you read it. A nice quote from your book early on is how you say that deciding whether so this text is, of course, beware of saying what this text is about, but what this text is said to be about is the ultimate nature of reality. But you say quite early on that whether or not that's true, if this text somehow explains the ultimate nature of reality, isn't the point. Because you say, and here's your quote, all beliefs are considered obstacles because they separate you from what is now. So can you explain that, what the obstacle belief poses to someone studying this text or grappling with Buddhism?
Well, beliefs are somehow constructs based on something from the past, usually. And they may be very well-founded beliefs and very accurate and very helpful even. But they could be considered an obstacle because you're paying more attention to your ideas than your reality. And if the Heart Sutra is about the ultimate nature of reality, whatever that might be, then it's important not to dispose of beliefs because that's another belief, but to learn how to separate. So if you're a meditator, which I know you are, and you say you have a breath awareness practice, and then you get absorbed in thought because you're a person and that happens, and you let go. You notice that, you let go, and you come back to the breath. So the thoughts are not considered obstacles, but not the point. So the breath in meditation is a stand-in. The idea is not to be a great breath follower. It would not be that helpful, but to understand how to place your attention on the present. And you can't breathe in the past and you can't breathe in the future, no matter how hard you try. I have tried. So when your attention is resting on the breath, it's practicing resting on the present moment. And then thoughts come up. Well, I'm really good at this, or I'm terrible at this, whatever it might be. And you let go and you come back to the breath, not so that you can follow your breath when you go into your life, but so that you can follow the present moment because you have practiced with the breath. So that is another way I think of saying beliefs are considered obstacles just as thoughts are not the object of attention in meditation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very beautiful what you said, and it brought up so many things in my mind because one thing it brought up is almost that the text itself is like the object of focus that can never kind of resolve, but the way it's constructed is so good at taking your focus and your attention, that which is something I hadn't really thought about before. A lot of other things came to mind, but that was one kind of reaction I had.
There are three things to pay attention to in the text. The first is the words, thus have I heard, et cetera, and so forth. Those are very important. The second is the sound of the words. So not just the content, but the sound of the words conveys meaning. And the third is the environment in which the words are spoken. So it just feels one way to chant the Heart Sutra here with you than it does. Like when I go swimming every morning, sometimes I often say the Heart Sutra while I'm swimming, a different environment. Or if I'm on a mountaintop, the environment plays into the meaning. So the words, the sound of the words, the environment, and they're equally important.
Yeah, and the text is also situated in a place too, right, in Rajagriha. So that was important the first time it was spoken as well. It also brings up what you say later in the book about music. You use music as a very good, very beautiful analogy for how the text works. Can you talk about that? Because you talk about the sound of the text, and of course the sound is different when it's translated into all these different languages. So elaborate a little bit more on the sound of the text and how that relates to how music works with our minds.
Yeah, music is my favorite analogy for most spiritual concepts because it's just seems to be more direct. So I wrote about this in the book, and I think this is what you're referring to. I was taking a walk with my earbuds in, and I was listening to a playlist that just played things randomly on my playlist, things just comprised of songs I really like. I really like a lot of songs. So I'm walking around, and the song that comes on is Chet Baker, the great jazz saxophonist and extraordinary vocalist, singing My Funny Valentine. And it's just super spacious and quiet and thoroughly beautiful. And I'm taking a walk on this path, and I'm looking around. The world looks beautiful. And then the next song that comes on is a song called Jump Around by a band called House of Pain.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's like a hip hop band from the mid-90s. And it's very, it's got a lot of weird sounds in it. And it's, it's not about my funny Valentine. You know, I love that song. But anyway, when that song came on with its crazy sounds, equally beloved by me, the world looked different.
Yeah.
I felt different. So that's just still just me, these earbuds in, walking around. Chet Baker and House of Pain convey different worlds.
It's an extraordinary medium, music, isn't it? And of course, the emptiness of music it's almost the ideal object for emptiness. Because where do you find that music? Is it in the iPod or in your ears, or the vibration, the brain?
Exactly.
The recording 20 years ago.
I totally agree. And what even is a song? I mean, you can change the chord progression, you can change the tempo, you can change. It's still recognizable as itself.
But then as a medium, right? This actually is something I did get from my Buddhist teacher too, because monks and nuns, at least in Tibetan tradition, very sadly, one of their vows is not to listen to music, believe it or not, which luckily almost all the monks and nuns I know don't obey that vow anymore, which I think is excellent. But I would ask my teacher, Venerable Rene, my closest teacher, what he would do when it got difficult with his practice, because he's done, more than a decade of solitary retreat. And he said, well, I kind of throw a party for one, he's like, I put on some music. Like for him, he liked to listen to some rock and roll and Four Seasons and things. So he said, I'd set up a little party, some lights and play some music. And he said, there's no medium that can instantly change your mood like that. Like you can't look at a painting or read a book and have it, instantly change your mood, but music does.
Agree.
Yeah.
It's an immediate, you mix your mind, it mixes with your mind. Yeah. It does not pass go. It's just, you have to concentrate on a book, even if you love it. But music, your mind just mixes with it immediately. It's the greatest art, if you ask me.
Yeah. And so the sound of this text, I guess you're saying can have a similar effect.
Yeah. It's not make you feel like jump, like House of Pain or Chet Baker, but it has a presence.
We were talking about belief, just to finish that out. This book is your first book in a series called Buddhism Beyond Belief. Can you talk about that? What does that mean? And what is this new series you have in mind?
Well, I kind of like the double meaning, Buddhism beyond whatever your beliefs are. Because that's where the good stuff is. And then beyond belief is whoa, I didn't know it was this awesome. It's beyond belief.
Unbelievable.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great. That's really great. That reminds me of something. Robert Thurman once translated the mantra. You make a nice translation of the mantra. Gate gate parasamgate bodhisoha. But his translation is beyond, way beyond, further beyond. But then the last part he says, far out.
Yeah, that's funny. I say mic drop.
Yeah, that's really good. You need something like that. That's very shocking at the end. I liked your mic drop. That updates it for the hip hop ear. His was good for the rock and roll ear.
Totally good. Yeah, I've been a student of Buddhism, as I keep saying, for more than 30 years, and I've been a teacher in my own way for maybe 15, close to 15. And there are a lot of foundational teachings that are useful, very useful. So in this series, I want to talk about those teachings in the three yanas, mostly the Hinayana and Mahayana. The Four Noble Truths, a separate book on the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the fourth truth, and the six paramitas, or transcendent actions, the four karmas. So I just want to have these little books that people can use without having to go into a full academic exploration, but for me, my own voice, my own preferred way of communicating, it's not even a choice. It just seems to be the way it happens, is not to give a survey, but to talk about my experience with these teachings. Not because my experience is exemplary, but because it's personal. And the most important thing, I think, on the journey is that it be personal and that we not try to master someone else's thoughts, even though there are true masters out there who deserve that kind of attention. But how do I understand it? Me, Susan Piver, in my world, not Tibetan, female, in this house. So where are those teachings for me and where are you? That's what I want the series to help with.
Talking about you as a teacher, in the book you talk about leading a 10-day retreat on the Heart Sutra recently. And I wonder if you could share the experience from that retreat. How did you spend a week and a half focusing on this text with the group?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't spend a week and a half because it got shut down due to COVID after 6 days. Yeah, that was very disappointing.
Sorry.
It was a shame. But I hope to do it again. And the whole object is just, let's chant the Heart Sutra a lot. Let's relax. Let's not try to understand. And let's just relax and be receptive and notice our minds. And so it's a retreat is, 7 in the morning, 9 at night, practice sessions, breaks for lunch, regular retreat schedule. But I wanted this retreat, and when I've taught it before, I also want this to include a lot of recitation of the Heart Sutra, discussion of the Heart Sutra, but then also just discussion amongst ourselves. Some retreats are no talking. That's cool. But the heart opening part seems to come from relating to the space, to each other, and to yourself. So I wanted those things to be part of the retreat. And for a while they were, while it lasted, they were. And so that's what we did.
And how did other people respond to the text? Both initially, I bet some people heard it for that first time, right at the beginning. And then, as they went into it deeper and deeper.
Well, I don't really know because I'm not sure what their inner experience was. But the guiding question that I think is most important for this exploration is to not ask, what does this mean? Because then you're just going to go down a rabbit hole. But ask, what does this mean to me right now? Constantly try to connect your own heart, your mind, your experience, your felt sense to this text, because it is a little bit like music, and it just mixes with your mind, and it mixes with it in a different way every single time. I can't even count the amount of times I've chanted it. Who knows? 100,000 or so. I don't know. Many, many. And every time I do, I'm like, oh, I don't remember it said that. Oh, okay. That's going to help me with this thing I'm worried about. It feels like a living text. So it changes just like all living relationships.
Yeah, you talk about that. There's certain texts like that are kind of different every time you read them. I notice it with some of my prayers I read every day, that sometimes I'll have read something, like you said, 1,000 or 5,000 times. And then I see something I never saw. It's like a line, it's almost like a line I never read. And yet I certainly read it thousands of times.
How does that happen? I know. I remember once I was talking to Sam, my meditation teacher, about something that was causing me pain. I can't remember what it was, but it was very important. And I was struggling. And he said, oh, well, do you know the mantra that calms all suffering? I said, no. He said, are you sure? I said, pretty sure. And then I remembered the Heart Sutra says the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, because there is no deception. And it is said in this way, Om Gate Gate Paragate, and so forth. So, I never put that together. This is actually the mantra that calms all suffering. So he said, do you know what it is? I'm like, no, I never heard of it, but I've been saying it every day for decades. So.
It's amazing how our minds work. Yeah. And that's kind of like what my teacher means by accumulating merit. It's like somehow something has to eventually, even have good intentions, good action, somehow you have to wait for like the moment to click. You were talking about opening your heart, how this text opens your heart. And this text is best known for wisdom. Like as you mentioned in the book, there's these kind of two aspects to at least Mahayana Buddhism, Buddhism in general, of wisdom and compassion. The Heart Sutra is generally associated with the wisdom side. So how do you see the Heart Sutra also helping to cultivate compassion and open heart? Joy too. That's the title of your book, Inexplicable Joy.
That's true. Well, the name, the Heart Sutra, is not about the heart. I know this isn't your question. It means the pith. The pith of so the Heart Sutra could be 100,000 lines long, could be 50,000 lines long. This one's 43 lines long, and it's therefore called the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge, the pith. Yes, wisdom and heart opening are not separate. So wisdom is seeing the non-separation, the indivisible nature of all phenomena. Thus have I heard. And as such, nothing remains but compassion, because it's all one thing, and you don't cut these people out or this circumstance out. You don't even exist anymore. So now what? There's not a difference between wisdom and compassion. There's, compassion and skillful means, but I would say they're the same. The wisdom is seeing the interdependence of all phenomena, which means you disappear and become, I don't know what, not having achieved it myself, connected to all.
Yeah, no, that's very beautifully said. That wisdom and compassion are as another duality that we can transcend. Speaking of one of the most famous lines in this text is, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form." And I wonder, with every one of these questions, I kind of hesitate on how to ask it without being too dualistic. But can you share your understanding or shifting understanding of this line, this phrase?
No, I cannot. I'm sorry, because I don't understand. Form is emptiness. Okay. Emptiness also is form. Form is no other than emptiness. So I kind of get, well, the form is empty of something. Emptiness is form. Is it more inscrutable to me? How can it be a form? I don't know, but you know what? I trust it. I trust it. What do you think?
The main lineage I'm in is like this Gelugpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. So sometimes people make fun of it that we study too much. And then they make fun of the other schools, saying, well, what are you meditating on if you haven't studied? I've actually studied in other schools too. But there's different ways of looking at it. Like one way I've heard His Holiness the Dalai Lama explain it is that emptiness isn't a thing, which I know you're very well aware of, that it's a property of everything. So for something to be empty, there has to be a thing that is empty of, what we say inherently existing, like empty of existing, independent of anything else. Mm-hmm. So there's no emptiness without a thing that's empty of existing.
That makes total sense.
Inherently. So that's one way. I've heard it explained many, many ways. Like, of course, there's no single explanation, but that's one that I remember, and that has struck with me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's His Holiness. Hard to beat His Holiness.
Yeah. He knows what he's talking about. Let's just say that.
Yeah. But it's like you say, you can't trick yourself to thinking you understand, or that's the meaning. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to mention when you were talking about beyond beliefs. One of my very favorite quotes is that I read early on when I was a Buddhist, was from Dzongtsar Khyentse Rinpoche, who said, "As long as you think you are a Buddhist, you are not yet a Buddha."
Cute.
So I think
cool.
that reads well on belief, like even the belief that you're a Buddhist is an obstacle to realization at a certain point.
And believing that it's an obstacle is a belief that is an obstacle. This just continues to dissolve.
Yeah. This is like the Susan Piver trademark, I've noticed, is the meta-analysis. Like, you're always ready to take that analysis, and I love it. I just love it. But the more I read,
I'm complimented by that. I appreciate it.
Like, you're always warning, like, don't stop there.
Don't stop there.
Which I love, which I really love. To get more personal, which I think is effective, can you tell me a time in your life that this sutra really helped you with something you were going through?
Yeah. I don't know if it helped me, but it helped me to feel like I was helping someone else.
Oh, yeah, even better.
Which helped me. Yeah. Okay. I try not to cry. Our cat died a week and a half ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's terrible. It's horrible. It's anybody that's lost a pet, or whatever you call them. Your heart goes out to you. It's a grief like no other. And as he was dying, I said the Heart Sutra to him. It's probably more for my benefit. I have no idea, but it's a treatise on letting go. And because he's my cat and we had him for 18 years, he'd heard it many times. So I wanted it to feel familiar. I wanted him to hear something that I imagined sounded familiar. I don't know what cats hear. And I wanted that to go I wanted that sense of my presence and our togetherness to go with him to the point where it could not go any further. So that helped me.
It probably helped your cat too.
I don't know. I miss him.
Lama Zopa Rinpoche was one of my teachers, and he was constantly speaking, singing, yelling mantras into the ears of animals. He thought it was very, very important. Yeah. Often the medicine Buddha mantra, but also perfection of wisdom. Others, like he said, was one of the very best things you can possibly do for an animal. And to talk about going back to belief, though, one of the belief is that the animal will actually become your student in a future life. If you believe that.
Okay, as long as we can meet again, that's amazing. Well, I hope I could be his cat in the future.
Yeah. You've also got a gato too.
That's right. Gato, Paragato.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. I think you were probably the ideal student and owner friend to your cat. I'm sorry. What was your cat's name?
Robbie.
Very nice.
Yeah.
To talk a little bit more about translation, when you read you must have read other translations of the Heart Sutra. How do they feel to you when you read the other ones, and do they change your experience of the text?
Not really. They don't really change my experience. I've read some wonderful ones, but it feels like I'm putting on a shoe that's like a half size too small or something, or too big or something. It's like, oh, I don't know where to fit in here. Thich Nhat Hanh's translation is beautiful. Or they're not that different from each other. But I guess, I have clinging to the one that I've been chanting since the very first day I ever practiced meditation. And it feels like a friend, and a weird friend who doesn't really care about me. Cares about me, but I'm like, I don't know how to be in a relationship with you. But I'm interested. When I taught the Heart Sutra at the abbreviated retreat this past summer, there was a teacher there teaching something else. His name was Kaz Tanahashi sensei. He's teaching, he's 94, teaching calligraphy, but he is an actual master of the Heart Sutra and wrote a book about the Heart Sutra. I wrote about this in the book. And Swaha, the last word of the mantra, is translated as so be it, or far out, or mic drop. But he said he translates it as joy, which that was really eye-opening to me. That was beautiful. I'm happy I learned that from him. So that's just one very small example of how a different translation shed a different light, in a sense, didn't change it, but it expanded it.
Mm. It's interesting too to hear it in a language you don't understand, right? Like to listen, because I looked it up in Sanskrit sometimes. I was like, oh, what does the original sound like? And that's also affecting, right? Even without understanding it. Like music, like you were saying, right?
Yeah. I've only ever chanted it in English.
Yeah.
I've heard it in Japanese, which is
that's beautiful too.
very
Yeah.
intense. Yeah. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah.
The only part of the text that isn't translated is the mantra, right? The gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. So, and they don't translate mantras, right? Because they say like the vibration of the Sanskrit, the syllables is very important. Can you talk about that? You talk nicely about it in your book, but can you talk about what mantras and this mantra in particular mean to one, and how they affect our minds?
Yeah. Well, mantra is very mysterious, and one never knows how it's going to affect your mind or what they mean. I mean, vibrationally and all that, I don't know. But Om is the seed syllable of compassion, among many things. So as soon as the mantra opens with Om, you're like, okay, I get what we're talking about now. I don't understand it, but I understand what kind of conversation I'm in. Gate, as you said, beyond. Gate, beyond. Paragate, really beyond. Parasamgate, totally beyond. Like gone to the other shore. Bodhi, awake. Swaha, or out. Mic drop. Joy.
Yeah.
So be it. So, yeah, I've chanted it a million times, not just as part of the Heart Sutra, but when I'm suffering. And I don't know what it does, but it's worth trying. It's worth experimenting with, for sure. And it would just sound different if it was like compassion, gone beyond, really beyond, awake. It just wouldn't sound right, I don't think. No.
It's nice to hear that, because I'm like, as you know, I'm also try to teach in a secular way. So I don't really use mantras ever when teaching, the type of course. But in my own life, in my mind, they're just constantly there, right? Like we're all thinking about something all the time, right? And sometimes it's, frustration, anger, sadness, despair. But I think for those of us who have become familiar with these mantras, it's often that, isn't it? Like that's going through your mind. It's just, as you're walking down the street, and it's a nice thing. You have to be thinking of something in general. So it's quite a nice thing going through your mind, right?
It's often a better occupant than your thoughts about how much you suck or the world sucks. It tends to not have the same karmic repercussions, I would say. Doesn't plant the seeds that our thoughts are said to plant.
Of course, personally, I couldn't agree more with you, but how do you, beyond beliefs, what people question? I'm sure you have some quite skeptical people in your Sangha and so on. What do you share with people when they express like doubts or that superstitious or old or whatever?
Go for it. Yeah. Doubt is a sign of intelligence. You should investigate
your skepticism.
Investigate. My favorite teaching line is don't take my word for anything.
Buddhas, yeah.
I really mean that. Do not take my word for anything. You have to figure it out. So you have doubts, you have questions. Good. Okay, good. Figure it out. Think about it. I'll try to help. But I don't have any skin in the game. I don't have skin in the game. No, don't try it. Try it if you want. Don't try it.
Yeah.
It's not my game.
One of the warnings that they traditionally have with this topic of emptiness is of falling into nihilism. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that danger, if it is a danger, and if so, how to avoid it.
Yeah. Well, emptiness is understandably confused with voidness, but it doesn't mean voidness. As you were saying earlier, it means empty of separate existence. Like your parents, the food they ate, their parents, all of that is not separate. You cannot separate those things from you. You did not arise separate from those causes and conditions. So emptiness doesn't mean null. And if you think it does, well, investigate. Is it null? But nihilism is thought of as one of the two extremes to be avoided in favor of what's called the middle way, which I know you're familiar with, especially as a Gelugpa student. So the two extremes, when the Buddha first became enlightened, according to the stories, he said, we don't do either of the extremes. Nothing wrong with them, but that's not what we do.
We don't do extremes.
We don't do those. First one is called eternalism, which is you're going to get this right, and then we're going to go somewhere perfected for all time. But we don't know if we're doing it right until the end because there's someone out there judging it. And there's rules, and maybe that's true. I don't know. But Buddha said, we're not doing that one. And nihilism is, there are no rules, there is no meaning, there's no one judging because there's nothing beyond this mortal coil. And he also said, we're not doing that one either. So the middle way is not the midpoint between the two extremes. It's a constant question mark, if you ask me. What do you do without eternalism or nihilism? I mean, that's a real question. It's not a rhetorical question. You are in the middle, and the middle is not eternalism. It's not nihilism. It's not neither. It's not both. It's a mysterious midpoint. As far as I can tell, located in outer space.
Yeah, and for the people that
what do you think?
Yeah, for the people that understand it too, and I'm not one of them, by the way. For the people that understand it, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he says it's so subtle. He says it's so because it's almost like it doesn't exist. It's like it's very close, but it's not. Like it's very, very subtle. And our tradition in Gelugpa we study this topic tenets. I don't know, maybe you study it too with this like 4 different schools of emptiness, because over the course of Buddhist history there were at least 4 major ways of looking at emptiness, and the first 3 find something. Like the first 3 actually find a base. Like the first one, I don't know if I should use the jargon, but it's called Vaibhashika, and they find atoms. They say it's kind of like physics before Einstein. They find atoms. They're like everything's atoms, and that's where the buck stops. Then the next one, so Tantrika says we find functions. That everything, the ultimate way things exist is that they do something. They come together for some purpose. Then the next one is kind of my favorite, even though I'm technically a middle way practitioner. But the next school you probably know is a mind-only school, which is like Thich Nhat Hanh is actually more like of that school. And it finds mind. It actually says there's no matter. That one interpretation, there's no matter, that all you find is mind.
Wow.
And then the last one is this middle. So those 3 are they're reified because they all find some basis for reality. And then is this middle way school. Again, I'm just kind of sharing the way, I've been taught it. Then there's this middle way school, which is so subtle because it says you never quite find anything, that everything is divisible. It's like infinitely divisible. Like we look for Susan, we find like the body and the mind. Then the body can be broken into arms, like you're used to this analysis, but you never find a base. That you don't find quarks, muons, there's always divisible, always, even though we don't know what those are, science doesn't know what they are, there's always some material divisibility. And same thing mentally. Like when we divide Susan's mind to, like, say, your mental factors, feeling, discrimination, so on, perception, use the word feeling, perception. Those also break up into moments of consciousness, and they can never be subdivided. Anyway, we could talk about this for like 25 hours, 25 years, actually. But that's, so sorry, it's sort of a long, it's nice of you to ask, but yeah, so the middle way, it's like, it's very, very different.
That's very interesting, by the way. I never heard that. Yeah. And it's very interesting, and I appreciate hearing it a lot.
Yeah, sure. But that's how I've been taught. And we do like quite long retreats on, and we see the value. My teacher, a Geshe, there's a wonderful Geshe here now, Tishi Geshe Konchag, who he said to me, because we keep studying this topic over and over, tenets, it seemed to be very important, like in our school. And he said, none of them are right also. He said, of the four schools, awesome. He says, none of them are right. He says, it's just, I love that. He's just, which one is and that's very powerful, right? Like, especially, Gelugpa, we have this kind of reputation, like, okay, middle way is the correct view. No, it's not. It's which one is, like you keep saying, which one is the right one for you at this moment. So anyway, awesome. Thanks for asking. That's a little bit of kind of what I've been taught, but it's kind of beyond we did a retreat on this recently with Venerable Renee in April. And he tried to get us, because there's this phrase, merely labeled, right? That you probably heard, that things are merely labeled, that things just exist as a label, like a word, a sound, on top of something. And at the lower schools, they say that something is parts and causes, which you've probably heard. Like there's the parts of something, like we just talked about with Susan, the body and mind parts, and then the causes that brought them together, which is already really profound. But that's seen to be the lower school understanding of emptiness. The higher school is that it's just something. Like it's merely labeled on something. And you just really can't get a handle on what that is until you have like the direct realization of it. And they say, like Lama Tsongkhapa, when he realized emptiness, he said, oh, it's so much different than I expected. It's like, it's quite, I didn't expect he wasn't able to quite explain what that was. But
seems trustworthy to me. What is a lower school?
I mean, lower is kind of the lower means really earlier, like that Buddhism, it evolved over time.
Older.
So some teacher would say less correct too, of course, like I was saying. But my teachers don't say that. They actually say, no, they're all actually valid. That the earlier schools would be more like provisional, that they're provisional understandings, and that the higher one is ultimate. But there's many ways of interpreting it. But I like the one that it's just the way that it evolved, the way that different minds come to understand. But in general, they're a little bit coarser. Like to find reality in atoms is coarser than finding it in function, is coarser than finding it in mind. And then that's coarser than finding it in this kind of unfindability as you like infinitely dissolve things. I mean, words are, as you mentioned, like words are reified, words are dualities, as you mentioned. So it's tricky the words aren't the path, but
it is tricky.
They lead you to it. Anyway, I would love to talk to you about this for a very long time.
I enjoy talking with you about it too.
Yeah. It's and like you say, you don't want to get caught up, especially you give a very good warning in your book, like beware of thinking that you understand this text or anything of its nature. It's a very good one.
That should be a red flag.
Yeah. But it's not, it's juicy to think about it and to grapple with understanding it, like you have. Is what a wonderful invitation your book is to people, and I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it. It is quite short, Inexplicable Joy on the Heart Sutra. Wonderful introduction to this text that I would highly recommend to anybody.
Thank you.
I think you may kindly agree to lead a meditation to go partner with this. And we'll air that in the next episode. But would you say anything about that meditation? You don't have to say anything about it. We can just air it if you like.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. We'll just do a short breath awareness meditation, which often sounds like, because it's true, a beginner's practice. Right. But if you were to go down the Buddhist path, you would start with this practice. And then if you went and did all the visualizations and the guru yogas and the mantras and the mandala practices and so on, at the end, you would pretty much come back to this. It's almost formless, but it's not completely formless. Anyway, it's very simple. So we'll just practice for a short period.
So Susan, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation about such a meaningful topic and for writing another beautiful book. Beautiful, funny, meaningful, a little bit shocking and fresh, and etc. in all the perfect ways. I think anybody who cracks it open is going to enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's a delight to talk with you. I really appreciate our conversations.
Always. I wish we could go on a hike all day long or something and talk. It'd be fun. But thanks for everything you do. It's in these times, especially, it's like there's really nothing better we can be doing. So thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. Thanks for joining me for this inspiring conversation with author and teacher Susan Piver. Her new book is Inexplicable Joy, on the Heart Sutra. It's the first in her Buddhism Beyond Belief series. If you'd like to deepen your meditation practice and connect with like-minded people who share an interest in the ideas we explore on this podcast, head over to howtotrainahappymind.org. There, you can sign up for our newsletter and join our Train a Happy Mind community, where we offer weekly lectures, meditations, classes, and discussions. You'll also find links to our book, How to Train a Happy Mind, available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. It's a modern approach to Buddhist wisdom with a foreword by the Dalai Lama. If you're able, please consider making a donation to support our nonprofit work. How to Train a Happy Mind is a project of a skeptic's path to enlightenment, and we rely entirely on the generosity of our listeners to keep everything we offer free and ad-free. To contribute, visit howtotrainahappymind.org. We accept credit cards, PayPal, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies, and all donations are tax-deductible in the U.S. Thanks to Christian Parry for audio mastering and to Isabella Acebal for production and marketing on this episode. We wish you a wonderful day.